Okay, guys, I'm going to solve a couple more quadratic equations. So first of all, remember that they have to be equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract this 20x. And I want it in descending order, so I'm going to put it in the middle. So we've got 4x squared plus, minus 20x plus 21. And that will equal 0. Now, you have two options here. You could either factor this or use our quadratic formula. I happen to know that this factors, so I'm going to go ahead and factor this using bottoms up. You can use a quadratic formula, you'll get the same answer. So I'm going to multiply this 4 over here. So I have x squared minus 20x plus 84. Then I'm going to factor this. And that's going to factor into minus 6 and minus 14. Then don't forget, you need to take this 4, divide it back underneath. And then we need to reduce the fractions. So this will reduce to 3 over 2, and this one's 7 over 2. Bring it back up in front. We get 2x minus 3 and 2x minus 7. Now we're ready to set those both equal to 0, so we can get our answer. So we have 2x minus 3 equals 0, 2x minus 7 equals 0. So we'll add 3 to both sides. So we get 2x equals 3, divide by 2, and x equals 3 over 2 is one of your answers. Do the same thing over here. So your other answer is 7 over 2. Okay, again, you could use the quadratic formula. You're going to get the same thing either way. All right, another quadratic equation. But this one has fractions in it. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, we want to clear the fractions. It makes it so much easier. So if you remember from a previous chapter, to do that, we multiply by the common denominator, which in this case is 16. So I'm going to take this and multiply by 16 on each of these terms, even the one without a fraction, and on both sides. So here the 16 cancels, and we've got x squared plus, this just gives us 16x, plus 16's cancel here, we get 41. And on the right side, we get 0. So you can try to factor this one. It doesn't factor, so what I'm going to do is use a quadratic formula. So we know here that a is the number in front, so we've got a equals 1, b is in front of x, so 16, and c is the constant, which will be 41. So we have negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and the entire thing is over 2a. So substitute in what you know, we've got negative 16 plus or minus 16 squared minus 4 times 1 times 41, all over 2 times 1. Then we're going to simplify what's under the radical. So 16 squared is 256. Then negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 41 is negative 164. And that'll be all over 2. Okay, then we're going to keep going. So we'll subtract what's underneath. And when you subtract that, you get 92. And that's still all over 2. Okay, the next thing you need to do is simplify this radical. So we've got 92. And that will break down into 4 times 23. And then we know the square root of 4 is 2. So we've got 2 square root 23. So I'm going to write that back in here. Negative 16 plus or minus 2 square root 23 over 2. And then we need to remember that if all three of these numbers will reduce by the same thing, you need to reduce them. So they're all divisible by 2. So divide them all by 2, we get negative 8 plus or minus. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so you don't really need that there. Square root 23. And then the same thing on the bottom, 2 divided by 2 is just 1. And we don't really need the 1 on the bottom, so we're just going to have -8 plus or minus square root 23. And because we ended up with a square root, I know that that would not have factored.